Good afternoon. My name is Henry Fernandez. I'm from SK E&S, Director of Business Development. Today, I would like to share a little bit about who SK is as a company and how we plan to achieve net zero by 2040. So SK Group is a Korean conglomerate that was ranked 117th on the Fortune Global 500 as of 2022. We have a total market cap of $185 billion with annual revenues of $138 billion per year. We focus on 4 key areas of business. We have advanced materials, which is mostly semiconductors. We have biopharmaceuticals. We also do digital, which is mostly telecommunication. And then green, which is mostly energy. As you can see here, green is the biggest chunk of our portfolio. And we focus mostly on LNG, renewables, hydrogen, and batteries. So diving in a little bit more into our energy portfolio, SK, we have full integration of the LNG value chain. We continue to expand our renewable portfolio. We're seeking to take a leadership position in the hydrogen space, and we are developing CCUS projects to power the future. So on the LNG side, as I mentioned, we're fully integrated, and if we go on the upstream side of the value chain, SK holds about 1 BCM of gas production out of Oklahoma in the United States. We have 2 BCM of gas production out of Australia, and we have 0.7 BCM of gas production out of Indonesia. On the midstream side of things, we have 2.2 MTPA of liquefaction production out of Freeport, Texas. We have 1.5 MTPA of liquefaction production out of Australia, Darwin LNG. And then we own 4 ships that we use to transport all of our LNG across the globe. On the downstream side of things, we hold regas capacity at different terminals in Korea and in China. And we're also looking for other markets to expand our regas position so that we can place our LNG. On the power side for gas, we have about 5.5 gigawatts of installed capacity of gas-fired units in Korea. And then we are the market leader in city gas operation with 22% of total market share, and we deliver gas to about 4.5 million homes every year. On the renewable side of things, we're continuing to grow and expand our renewable portfolio. We have about 500 megawatts of installed capacity in Korea, and we have a pipeline of over 3 gigawatts of renewable projects to come online over the next 10 to 15 years. On the hydrogen side of things, we're looking at a phased approach to hydrogen. So we're starting off with gray hydrogen by installing 30,000 tons per annum of gray hydrogen production this year. We're going to expand that to 250,000 by adding an incremental 250,000 tons of blue hydrogen by 2025. And then we will go into the 2030s by installing green hydrogen or developing green hydrogen projects in Korea and in neighboring markets. On the energy solution side of things, we continue to grow our energy solutions by acquisition of projects in the United States. So we've had a series of partnerships that enable us to develop energy solution and storage systems in the United States that we then ship to Korea and other parts of the world. So the question I'd like to address today is, how does SK bridge the carbon gap and achieve net zero by 2040? So in 2021, SK decided that we would commit to net zero and a green economy and a green future for energy. So what we did was establish a goal of net zero by 2040. From 2022 to 2030, we have made the commitment to deploy billions of dollars into the hydrogen and the renewable energy space in order to help us get there. And then by 2030, we expect that all of these assets will be operating and will help us start offsetting the emissions from our production in other businesses. So how do we bridge to the future? So for SK, we believe that there are 4 key points that will help us get there. The first point is low carbon LNG. The second point is renewable energy, followed by hydrogen, and then energy solution. So on renewable energy, SK firmly believes that on LNG, SK believes that LNG will have to be the bridge fuel into the next decade to get us powered through the next decade. And in order to do so, we are implementing and developing projects with CCUS to reduce the emissions produced from our liquefaction, gas production, and power generation side. As we've seen, LNG has bolstered energy security around the world, given recent crises. And then it's a natural complement to renewables. So LNG is a dispatchable energy that we can turn on and off, and that can serve as a backup to renewables when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. And then finally, LNG we view as the gateway for developing blue hydrogen, because there are so many similarities in both, especially for blue hydrogen. We understand that we can leverage the gas infrastructure, specifically in the US. This is something that we've been working on in order to usher in a new era of blue hydrogen. On the renewable front, SK, we believe that harnessing wind and solar is the true energy independence, as that's something that countries can do to harvest their own natural resources. Cost curves continue to flatten, which makes it much more appealing and attractive to adopt renewable energy technologies. Adoption rates across the world continue to increase as market penetration gets new levels and is much wider across globe. And then government support continues to be key as it provides subsidies in order to deploy renewable and hopefully hydrogen technologies in the future. However, there's one key issue with renewable energy, is that there's no storage capacity at the grid scale, and that's something that SK is currently working on alongside with other companies. On the hydrogen side, we see a big opportunity in transportation sector, and as I mentioned before, there's an opportunity to also leverage the existing natural gas infrastructure for blue hydrogen. On energy solution, this is where we're kind of most innovative, where we are working with IT solutions as well as AI, so that we can manage power generation, distribution, and overall energy use. So I'd like to share very briefly an example of how SK is currently implementing some of the things that we're talking about. So in the case of carbon neutrality, here you can see we have a gas field in Australia, Barossa field, where we produce gas. We then capture the CO2, which we inject into an underground storage facility. We then ship that, we liquefy the gas into LNG, ship the LNG into end markets. And in Korea, we have a pilot project where we're also installing CCUS technology or CCS technology post-combustion, so that we can capture the carbon, strip it out of the gas, and be able to then ship it back to Australia so that we can store it. The storage facility that we have in Australia is an underground depleted oil and gas field, and that's what we're currently using to store this carbon. In this field, SK has 37.5% share of the total field, and we expect to offset about 0.5 to 0.7 MTPA of carbon every year for the rest of this decade and into the 2030s. So let me zoom out, and I'm starting to run up against time here, but I'll zoom out and kind of look at the bigger picture. SK as a company, we're currently emitting by 2025 about 10 million tons of carbon a year. By 2030, we will hit our maximum peak of 15 million tons of carbon emissions per year. And as you can see, it drops off into the 2040s, given some indirect benefits that we reap from other technologies. However, this is if we continue business as usual. And as I mentioned before, we've made a commitment to have net zero by 2040. So what we will do is have direct interventions with CCS technology and hydrogen. And by 2030, we will offset about 9 million tons of total CO2 emissions. And then into the 2040s, we will have complete zero emissions as a company. It's an ambitious goal because we have set 5% emissions reduction every year from now until 2040. And the key strategies for achieving that is deploying a significant amount of capital in order to create a more robust system that enables us to get to neutrality. As I mentioned, the focus areas are low carbon LNG, renewable, and energy solutions. And for that, we've made a series of acquisitions. Specifically, in the United States, we acquired a stake in Plug Power, which is a hydrogen company that we're working very closely with to develop these other these projects in Korea for gray and blue hydrogen. Lastly, I know I said a lot in a very short period of time, so I want to leave you with the following messages. If you take nothing else away from what I've said, please just try to hone in on these messages. One, LNG plus carbon capture will be necessary to bridge the future. So we think LNG has to play a role for the next 15 years, more or less, in the energy mix. Two, developing micro and grid scale storage solutions remains key for unlocking full renewable potential. While renewable is the key, the real key is storage. And then three, hydrogen is promising as a replacement fuel, but will need to be done in phases, with green hydrogen being the holy grail. In this case, we're taking a phased approach to get to green hydrogen, and we do think that it will have to be done in phases and not all at once by diving into green hydrogen. Thank you for your time.